Hello, my dears. Daniela here, and welcome to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I want to ask you a question. How comfortable do you feel with sales? Does it make you feel icky? Does it make you feel like you're taking advantage of your client? Do you just not know even where to begin? Well, I'm bringing in a dear friend of mine, Eugene, who takes a different approach to sales. He truly operates from a place of service, and I know you'll see what I mean as we go through this conversation together. Now, I started the interview really wanting to get tactical on phone sales, specifically because we've seen phone sales, phone calls, picking up the phone, inviting our patients in. That is working so well for the spas in our Growth Factor program right now. But the conversation that he and I had really evolved into something so much bigger around sales. So let me just do a quick read of his bio, and then we will play that interview. Eugene Vassilas is a sales trainer and growth consultant. He helps transform overthinking leaders into confident rainmakers, helping them build the mindset and strategies needed for empathetic communication and company growth. He's also a former Manhattan sales exec, published author, polyglot, and 20-year yogi. Just in case you didn't know what a polyglot was, I had to look this up, by the way. It's someone who speaks and writes multiple languages. So there you go. There's your new thing that you learned for the day if you didn't know that. So anyway, he is a polyglot and a 20-year yogi. Now listen in. I hope this interview helps. All right, Eugene, welcome. This is your first episode of Spa Marketing Made Easy. I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm so excited to share your incredible expertise with so many in our community.
It's beautiful to be here. Thank you, Daniela.
I wanted to bring you on specifically. You are so good. I don't want to say with sales. You are so good with sales, but I think sales kind of has a bad rap. A lot of people in their mind associate sales with, you know, the kind of used car salesman or that very pushy or something that we don't want in our spas. And you have this really incredible approach. And I think this is why you're so good, where you're really coming from a place of service. And we've heard that before. Sales is service. But how I wanted to bring you on to specifically break down how do we detach ourselves from the outcome? How do we pick up the phone and call somebody, and with obviously the intention of having some sort of sale, but how do we do that truly from a place of service?
I think simply put, it's getting in touch with your humanity. And to highlight what you mentioned earlier, I've been through a lot of stuff in my life, ups and downs, and a lot of learning lessons. And I think sales is just a container. It's a result of what happens when you're in touch with you. You're in touch with what it means to be human, when you're in touch with the ups and downs that empathetically the other person's going through as well. We're all leading lives sometimes which are secretly miserable, sometimes that are incredible, but it's not always going to be one or the other. So every time I'm interacting with somebody, I try and remind myself that here's a human being who's been through stuff. And obviously in a business context, we all need stuff. Like, our lives are not perfection. We're all working towards some sort of desired goal. So I just try and remember, I need stuff in my life. People need stuff in their lives. A lot of people love to buy. I would say most people love to buy, but they don't want to be sold to. What that means is, if you can show up empathetically, remember there's another human on the other line. What do they need? What have they gone through in their life, and even in that day? And what are their near-term goals? I think it changes the entire conversation. It also, it's not only service, it also gives it direction.
So let's just start off with, and I want to funnel this into picking up the phone and calling people, because I do believe that that's such a powerful tool that's overlooked. It's not going to cost you anything. Everybody has a phone in their business, and we've seen such great results with events and a variety of other things from those spas that are picking up the phone. But in general, some of these guidelines or philosophies or principles that you live by and kind of approach how you're interacting with other humans, they span whether you're in a consultation with someone, whether you're in the treatment room with someone, or whether you're picking up the phone and talking to them. So, what are some kind of do's and don'ts, I guess, of going through the sales process when you're about to interact with someone else?
First, I would say, again, back to that fundamental humanity. Like, you're not talking to people, you're not talking to even strangers, you're always talking to a friend. You may have not gotten to the point where you've officially become besties, but I like to approach my conversations with people from a place of familiarity. And obviously, depending on the context, that may be more or less appropriate, but it's a felt sense of closeness. And obviously one of humanity's biggest fears is to walk up to somebody they don't know and start a conversation.
Mm.
So, and I think that probably carries over to the telephone. Oh my God, I need to call somebody who I've maybe never talked to. And a lot of the time, speaking of phone sales, this will be to people who may already know your brand. They may already be familiar with you. They may be clients that are coming back. They may be really happy to hear you. They may be somebody who has had a bad day, and you are the perfect interruption to that particular moment.
Mm-hmm.
My point just being that remember the person, come from a place of service. I like to visualize in advance what I'm going to do for that day. And that means on my side of the court, how am I going to show up? Who am I going to be? What are these um, principles as a human being that I'm signing up for? Like, I would love to bring grace to a conversation. I would love to bring connection to a conversation. If that results in transacted money, great. Sometimes it doesn't. That's also okay. Where's that person? What do they need? And then also putting on the so-called doctor, the doctor the doctor suit or the doctor frame. You are the expert in your domain. We're all experts in something. And people, I mean, if we consider thinking is hard, thinking takes energy, research takes energy, but we all have needs. So if an expert or a leader or a so-called somebody with a doctor frame, they call and they keep it conversational, they keep it friendly, like they're talking to that close friend. They're like, hey, where are you at? What are your goals? What might you be needing? Something always emerges. It may just be, hey, it was so good to hear you. Or it could be, well, I haven't been around to the spa in a while. What's going on? But what I mean to say at the core of that is you're not selling, you're not convincing, you're definitely not arguing or criticizing. You're having a chat. You're checking in. It's like I once had a sales mentor tell me it's like a little tickle. You're just like, hello, how's it going? But the point is that it's much lighter than sometimes it feels. It feels like, oh my God, rejection. Oh my God, what might this mean about me? Many people say, I don't want to be pressuring. Sometimes pressure, empathetically put, is exactly what people need to make a change.
Mm.
So I think we're all a few steps or a few thoughts away from the next most important thing in our lives, but sometimes we need help to see it.
I want to go back to you said I visualize how I want to show up for the day, how I want to live by these principles. And how do you get into the space of this is the person that I want to be? Because I think we all have um, that person internally and we know what that person is, but maybe you didn't sleep last night, or maybe whatever, insert whatever stressor. If you have small children, if you have a neighbor that's like doing construction late at night, if you are worried about something and you have anxiety through, there's a variety of different things. What are you doing to work through some of those so you can show up as you want to show up? Because it's kind of like a cycle, right? If you're
I would firstly say manage your own expectations. It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to have that day where the neighbor is quiet, you've had a full night of rest, the kids were angels and so forth. Like those days, those are perfect days, and I think those are high ideals for which most people strive. But what helps me is to free myself. Like, yeah, I know there's a high ideal out there. I know I've got these 5 maxims or whatever it may be that I'm working towards in an ideal form. But practically, yeah, I didn't sleep. Yeah, the neighbor's doing construction. So I'm still now choosing to show up. And that sometimes really pulls on the heartstrings. Like, man, it would be so much easier if I could just kick my feet up, get that extra sleep, etc. But fundamentally, if you are of service, it means that you're more focused on what the needs are of the other person than what your temporary obstacles may be. And everyone has them. So it's kind of like an early daily decision. Sometimes, I mean, to be frank, sometimes if I haven't slept and I'm like running on, my gas tank is on E, then basically it might be a minute to minute decision.
Mm-hmm. Do you allow yourself to say, I'm going to take a nap, or I'm going to just kind of
100%.
reset? And because
100%.
I'm not in the space to serve at this moment, I need to fill my cup back up. I need to recharge my battery, whatever the thing is. I think so often we feel like we don't have a choice because, as the CEO running the business. But my argument there is like, your business deserves a CEO that's not overworked and overwhelmed, deserves someone at the top making the decisions that are best for the long-term growth of the company.
I totally agree. And I think that oftentimes busy spa CEOs get caught up in the KPIs and on realizing their vision. And sometimes they forget about an equally important set of KPIs, which are their wellness KPIs. Self-care, having a very clear regimen on what is the evidence that you need to signal to your brain and body that says, okay, now I'm taking care of myself. And that looks different for everybody. Sometimes it's a nap, sometimes it's a massage, sometimes it's a walk in the forest, sometimes it's spending time with your loved ones. But you have to decide in advance, what am I going to do to get a full tank, given that the demands of business are intense, the durations are sometimes seemingly endless, and we're constantly chasing the next biggest goal. And that unless you decide to take a vacation, to care for yourself, to take that nap, if you're leading, nobody else will for you. You might get a gentle reminder from your team, incredible, but then that's usually because something has gone wrong.
Mm. So let's talk about this detachment piece, because if we're showing up and we're showing up to have this chat with our client and we want to have that touch point, we're not selling, we're not convincing, we're not arguing, we're not criticizing. We make a sale good, we don't make a sale good. How do you operate a business and still like keep track of the numbers, but maintain that detachment where you're fully in service of that client or patient?
It's a paradox, and that's why it's a twister for most people. But at its core, it is, again, you deciding, what am I reaching for? And if it doesn't happen, I'll still be okay. There are innumerable circumstances where I wish I'd done better, said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing. Like, I just wish I had more wisdom or more context. Or these are all imperfect variables. Again, I'll never have a version of that perfect day. So it's like, in this moment, what can I do? Given that I'm a human, they're a human. They of course have a problem that they're looking for a solution on. And I mean, just think about, to contextualize it, imagine that, for example, you want to get in touch with returning customers. Maybe you want to pull in people who have already been into the spa. They're already familiar with your brand. You already know that you have at least once solved problems that they have. And fundamentally, it's just a question of like, hey, where are you at? So I think it's equal parts being nice to yourself, equal parts being ambitious, and realizing that you probably will never get the ratio perfectly, but still allowing yourself. A little exercise you may do with yourself is to consider, okay, here's you today, the version of you that's listening, and then imagine stretched into the future, there's also numerous versions of future you. So imagine that, for example, you could talk to a future you, maybe the version of you after that first phone call, the phone call you don't want to make. But there's a version of you that is separated in time by, I don't know, 30 minutes or an hour, whenever that may be. Imagine that that future version of you, no matter what happens, still loves you. Still says, no matter what happens on that next phone call, I won't discount you. I won't love you less. I've got you. We'll always be together. And we're going to learn from this. You can basically do no foul. At that point, it's like, cool, let's see what happens.
That's so much easier said than done.
It is.
It's so much easier said than done. I want to kind of segue into this pre-call routine, because I think this is a really powerful setup if you are feeling nervous about picking up the phone, if you're feeling like you don't want to bother them or you don't want to be intrusive. And this is something that you can also do, I think, if you're moving from, maybe you had like a heavy conversation with a patient. Oftentimes when we're in doing a treatment, they're unloading, they're sharing. It's a release for them to come in and talk in a safe space. But that can, if we carry that conversation with us, that can feel heavy if they're complaining or sad or something that's going on that's intense. How do we then shift into our next patient, into a phone call, into a conversation with our team, and still protect our own energy?
So that is a great question. I think there are a lot of layers to it. Big picture, it is about boundaries. And one thing that's helped me always visualize is and I've been in thousands of hours, either in sales conversations or in coaching conversations, and really helped people through heavy stuff, and we've all got it and it's okay. But fundamentally, like sometimes that has a carryover effect. And so how do you kind of cleanse wash the windshield, so to speak? Firstly, I like to imagine that there is some sort of invisible filter between whatever somebody says. I imagine that, for example, even if I'm on Zoom, they're sitting across the table. Whatever they say lands in some invisible crate or something that filters. It filters their words, it filters their pain, it filters their intentions, it filters everything before it lands in my ears. That's obviously just a made up thing, but it really helps me. It's really helped me to depersonalize things and to realize that, like, okay, cool. I'm not only showing up to help them, but I'm also showing up to make sure that I can keep on helping people like them. So
Yeah,
in the
almost
event,
like you're not judging them. You're able to listen. It filters through, because we all have our own personal beliefs as well. And there may be someone who comes into our business establishment that we're wanting to help that could have completely different,
they will.
beliefs. Yeah.
Expect they will. That by definition, they will have a totally different worldview than you do. And so part of the magic is hearing, like when they're getting like when they come to your spot, from the moment they set in, it should be a step into a different reality in the most positive of senses. And what I mean by that is, for example, it's borderline therapeutic when somebody gets something done. They want to share what's been going on. The proximity is intimate. The topics are intimate. And so, of course, you're going to be around that. And then the question becomes, like, what do you need to do to reset? Between, like, before and after every series of interactions that I have, I just take a minute and just kind of decompress, deep breath, and then be like, okay, time to reset. And even before, even for example, even before a patient, you can take 30 to 60 seconds to just set your intention and ask, what do I want to give this person, no matter where they're at, what they've been through, etc. How do I want to show up to support them, but also for me, so that I know that I'm on my purpose. Every spa owner has a bigger purpose. There's something that the reason that they're here, something that they're working towards. So, and I think the same is true about providers. I think the same is true about every human being. So, okay, 1 minute before, what am I doing to align to, okay, I've got this next service that I'm going to give. How do I want that to go? You can decide in advance. And you can also focus, for example, bringing it back to sales, you can decide on uncovering the truth. It sounds like many times people are very willing to give you their deepest truths when they're laying down and getting and taking care of themselves. But I think the next question becomes, how do you uncover that when some people are hesitant or some people have a bunch of pain, or maybe you don't even want to do that? You decide. You just have to decide, what are you available for? And then also do something like, in the same way you might wash your hands after cooking or whatever, or before cooking, just like wash your hands of the experience. And if you don't, the consequence may be that sometimes it spills over. Had a nasty experience with somebody for whatever reason, God forbid, and then you have to go immediately to meet another client. Oh, and then you're maybe not present for the first couple of minutes and whatever while you're finding your groove. Just do it in advance.
What's coming up for me as you're saying that is I worked at a practice where I must have done at least 500 hydrofacials. Like that was just what I did all day, every day. And it got to the point where it was almost mindless for me, that it was hard to stay present because I was just doing the motions. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be present. And I caught myself thinking about, what am I making for dinner? What am I doing to, like my mind was going somewhere else. And as just a very tactical, like trying to train my mind, I would just repeat, I'm sending you love. I'm sending you love. I'm sending you love. And I would literally repeat that, the voice in my head, over and over and over until I could train myself to actually be present with that patient. But it was challenging for me to stay present when it's something that you feel like you can do with your eyes closed, like riding a bike. Like, when we're driving, we're not really thinking about driving or riding a bike. I mean, we do, like, oh, there's a red light, I've got to stop. But I'm not thinking, I've got to hit the gas more or less, or what. It's kind of a natural thing. I feel like that can happen sometimes when you're doing services and it's just like second nature. So having a pre-call or a opening and closing thing for yourself to be able, before you see a patient, or giving yourself a tool or something, where for me, I literally had to repeat. That was just like, I needed to be doing something. And by repeating that, it wouldn't allow my mind to do any other space, or go to any other place until I was strong enough.
Which I think is an incredible practice. And I would invite everybody to try their own version of what effectively is a mindfulness practice. And like you just repeated a mantra, and like, what are your set of words if you find your mind wandering? The probability is that I loosely remember some statistics that I heard, that a majority of the thoughts that you think today are the same as you've thought yesterday. Like I think up to 90% of them are going to be as similar as yesterday. And because you're a human being, a majority of them are also going to be negative. So all of that's in the room as well. And then if you have any, like, with expertise comes unconsciousness. Like the whole goal of an expert is to get these super meticulous, specific skill sets to that you can do it like without using a lot of brain bandwidth. So then the next thing that, and I feel the same way about connections with people and just being in the world, until I usually get a rude awakening. That's like, oh, pay attention. And what that might look like in the room is, you've had 500 hydrofacials, however, then what? Then you miss work with a client and they complain or whatever. That's like smacking you back into presence. So two things I usually ask myself are, irrespective of what the task is, it's still a unique point in time. Like, this is still a new day. This is my day. I'm going to make my day. How do I want to make my day? And so then in the context of working with a client, it could be, if I've done this a zillion times, how can I go? I don't know if this makes sense, but like, how can I find more depth in the moment? Like, how can I make this? How can I honor this for the unique moment that it is and serve deeper?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the easy answer is that we're constantly dealing with living tissue. Nobody's skin is going to react the same. So just because the motions are the same, it doesn't mean that the result is going to be the same. And we show up, you were saying the version of you 30 minutes from now or an hour from now or a year from now, even if we're seeing our patients once a month, it's a new version of them. They've had new experiences, they've had growth, they've had, different things that have happened to them that we need to show up for. And, something I like to ask, I know this is getting away from phone, but I think it's really important in the client's experience is saying, how do you want to experience your service today? Because sometimes people want to talk and sometimes they don't. And it might be different between different months. And so if someone really just wants to zone out and have self-care and experience and receive on one time, give them that opportunity to do that. And then if they want to unload and tell you everything that happened, you're creating the space for that. But you have to hold that container for them of, how they're coming, this is their time that they're coming to solve a particular problem, to have a certain experience, to give themselves a gift, to show themselves love. And we need to honor that for them in the way that, that even really celebrating that someone is taking care of themselves and loving themselves.
To build on that, I think if you are a provider of any type, you are functionally, I like to think of this as for example, a spa pharmacist. You are looking for the pain and you are looking for the exact right of medicine, whatever that may be, in whatever form of service for that day. And that is what you're giving them, in addition to obviously their experience.
So let's go back to the phone call, the sales aspect, whether it's a call or a consult. When we do have someone that is, I guess this would mostly be in a consultation, and they come in and they're just telling you everything that's wrong, and you're wanting to, I guess, take back control of the conversation or lead the conversation. Maybe control is not the right word, but you're wanting to lead the conversation. You talk about pausing people and also pausing yourself. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I think generally in any positive sales experience, the client or the patient is speaking 90% of the time. I'm there holding space. I'm doing the other 10% of mostly questions. Through my questions, I'm guiding them. And sometimes they just need to do their 90%. Other times they might be asking for advice, but there's no perfect ratio. But the bottom line is they should feel heard, felt, seen, understood, and like you're there to support them.
So when we get the question, I'm really interested what your take will be on this. So we have patients that come in and they say, look at my face, tell me everything that I need to do. And they want our opinion. And my approach has always been, if it doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother me. I'm here to build your confidence. I'm here to make you look and feel your best. So if you like your freckles, we're going to keep them. If you like your whatever, it's really focusing on how do I build this person up. But when someone comes in and they says, tell me everything I need to do, how do we navigate something like that?
I would love to do so. And at that point, I'll just go into, well, what do you need? Talk to me. Well, talk to me. Like, it seems like, I mean, where would you like to start? What specifically, if we worked on one thing today, would you like to start with? So I take what's general and make it specific, and then I put the ball back in their court and then talk to their need. Because effectively, it sounds like what they've done is they walk in and then they're like, tell me everything. At
Yeah.
which point you also open the door to, well, why'd you do A, B, and C things? I didn't really feel that I need that, but you recommended it. So the simplest thing is actually to reflect or to throw the hot potato back to them and be like, hold on, like what actually do you want? Like what should we work on today? One thing. Let's start with one thing. What's that biggest thing for you today?
Very good. And that still opens up, they're going to say anti-aging. which opens up a whole can of worms. Um, I like to have their picture, like take the picture with the imaging device, put it up on the big screen, show them the UV damage, show them all the things and say, what is the most concerning? Like where, and I think putting together a home care plan, a treatment plan, a maintenance plan, but again, focused on what is it that is concerning to them, and then potentially breaking it in stages. But
Well said.
that question, um, it's always been challenging for me because I want to really focus on building them up and celebrating everyone's unique beauty and focusing on like what is it that and this actually came from an experience that I had where I had this patient come in who had really bad, in my opinion, hyperpigmentation. And I was like, oh, this is going to be real easy. It's going to be a series of IPLs. I'm going to put them on these products. I'm going to, there's some textural stuff going on here. Like I already had in my mind the whole thing. The only thing that this individual cared about was a red spot on their cheek. And so I was like, whoa, I just judged that person. And I don't want to be responsible for causing any insecurities or causing anything that should make this individual feel that they needed to do something that was not bothering them in any way, shape, or form. It was the most insignificant thing in my mind, but it was magnified and like glowing for her.
We got to be careful about mind reading, and this happens a ton also in all spaces, both so in all services. I think the goal is to again not be a mind reader and to also be like a third grade dummy and be like, well, what do you mean? Wait, tell me more about that. Wait, what's your definition of beauty? How do you know when you're feeling beautiful? Like to ask people what is their so-called evidence strategy? What do they need to see, hear, and feel to be like, wow, I just next leveled myself?
Mm-hmm.
Unless
Yeah.
they share that, you're kind of shooting in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such and I guess it goes back to that focus of gathering information of what do they actually need and how can we be of service?
And ask questions. Be simple in your own understandings, ask questions and have them tell you exactly what you need. And you can even reflect back to them. So do you feel that if we did you need A, B, and C. So do you feel if we did A, B, and C, that then you would get this other goal, which is why you're here in the first place?
Mm-hmm. So tying it back to how they want to feel, like the result is the confidence or getting more time because doing makeup in the morning will no longer be necessary because they won't be feeling like they have this glaring thing that everybody's staring at, even though probably 99% of the people are not, depending on what it is.
And I think you can, like, people oftentimes don't think big enough. So you might come in or somebody might come in and you might ask them, like, what would be a good result for us today? And then you could even ask, what would be a great result for us to work on today? Like this thing that would blow it out of the park, that would get you talking with all of your friends and like coming back a million times, whatever it may be. But getting them to realize, well, like, hold on, I have a goal, but then I also have a stretch goal. What's that stretch goal?
Mm-hmm. So I feel like the whole point of why I wanted to do this episode was to talk about phone sales. And I know we've talked about sales in general. I want to take this information. If we had to condense this into just like a couple of key points to encourage spa CEOs and their staff to relinquish the fear of picking up the phone and really utilizing that venue or modality, whatever you're calling that aspect of marketing, that way to connect. What advice would you give them? How would you kind of encourage them to move past that fear?
Number one, get clear on, again, what is your goal? What is your intention? Number two, you're only calling a friend. So, like, be cool. If you feel nerves or fear or anything like that, after you've done it enough times, those two will disappear. After enough people have said, well, I didn't expect to hear from you, but actually you've just brightened my day. You'll realize you actually have an incredible opportunity over the next 5, 10, however many minutes to loop people into a better world. So stand for that. And then next, realize you're not curing cancer. You're checking in with somebody, and then fundamentally, you're just figuring out, like, especially if it's somebody who's already been at the spa, hey, given when you first came in, it seems like you came in for these services. Did you get what you wanted? Cool. And that was, and then like in parentheses, that's then. Today's a different day. So then you're also like, and where are you at now? Anything that you've thought about that you want to work on or improve, etc. Okay, PS, we have, and here's where you would insert promotions or discounts or something that then sweetens the pot. And then you can even ask them, do you want help with that thing? Would you like to come in? And remember, you're totally okay with a no. Like, I start out any sort of outreach with, I'm totally okay with a no. That way, number one, I'm not surprised if they say no. And if they say a maybe, it's already a great outcome. If they say yes, incredible. But, and this is something for the spa CEOs to consider, celebrate failure. So, how can you encourage the team to rack up as many no's or maybes, or I'll think about it, as possible until just to motivate action. The second action then for the spa CEO is to think about, well, then if I'm getting a ton of these, then I need to look at, what am I offering? What is the actual conversation that's happening on those calls?
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of put it into nuts and bolts, a call is just pick up the phone, reach out, also get your voicemail game right. Like, because a majority of people are going to be busy and so forth, you're often going to be leaving voicemails. What do those sound like? What are you going to say? How are you going to both encourage intrigue and be willing and not close the door, so that you don't, if you were to call back, for example, on a second call, that it wouldn't be a surprise, but it'd also be like, oh, this person already left me a voicemail. So anyway, another parentheses, but a majority of people are going to be busy, so you'll be leaving a voicemail. But when you talk to somebody, it is, how, last time you were here, how'd that go? Where are you at? Do you still want to achieve whatever your beauty goals are? And then do you, like, how can I support you? Does it make sense that I connect you to talk with so and so specialist on this day? And
Scheduling
you're just
a
giving
consult or something. Yeah.
you're giving them options. You're helping them realize that, like, the mundaneness that we're all living in our day-to-day shuffle, like, here's a little spice. So, like, so before you even pick up the phone, realize that, like, I'm calling because I have the goods.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's such an over deliver in a lot of ways. Like I notice as I've talked to other spa CEOs, and I'm saying, who are you in touch with? Real estate agents do a really good job of this in general. So, like, we bought our house 4 years ago. My real estate agent sends me an email every single month. He invites me to a like Thanksgiving pie party every single year. Like, it's doing all of these touch points to keep me engaged. And I love looking at like how other industries market and what their touch points are for those things. I wouldn't think it was weird at all if my real estate agent called me, because there's
Exactly.
been those specific touch points. But if there's no touch points over however many years, and the email that I get is a personalized email. Sure, there may be some automation into it, but it's like it is a personalized value base to me. And so, like, how can we do that? I also think with spa, if we get in the habit of calling our patients a day or two after the service, just checking in to see how you're doing, it's not weird at all when they see your phone number on there.
And I totally agree. And I would also like to, and power to you for having a real estate agent with great connectivity, because what your real estate agent built was rapport. And that's just a positive felt sense of another human being. And, like, that is ultimately, I think, at the end of the day, despite all of our shuffles, all we want. We want to feel good when we're dealing with people, and those people are obviously representatives for brands. If you get like this is some sort of conditioning. If you get enough positive experiences with Addo, when you hear the name or the brand or oh yeah, good feeling. And you
Mm-hmm.
can do the same with your spa, especially if people are coming in repeatedly. And I also think it's incredible. So you also mentioned this idea of weird and like, would it be weird to reach out to people? I think just assume that people are going to be happy to hear from you. I think I probably made thousands of outreach touch points. I can remember maybe 5 to 10 people who were disgruntled, like, why are you calling? Who are you? Who gave you permission or something to that effect? If you offer value, if somebody called you right now, for example, and said, "Hey, I know you're a patient and you're in the spa right now, but when you come outside in the parking lot, right next to where you're parked, there's actually your dream car. However, your dream car, to be very clear, I don't know whatever the sticker price is. Let's say it's I don't know 50,000, for example. You only have to give 5K, and even before that time, you weren't thinking about a car, you weren't thinking about your dream car, you enjoying the service that was happening within the spa. If there's enough value conferred by that phone call, you'd be like, cool, as soon as this is done, when I come out, I'll figure out where to get the 5K so I can get 50K worth of value and my dream car.
Yeah.
So like you've got the value. Call like you're calling to connect. That's huge value. Humans are fundamentally lonely. You're calling to remind them of a promotion. You're calling to check in. You're calling them to ask how their day was. That maybe people don't necessarily feel that they need it. Well, why a check-in call? But if you can put all of that together in a single call, that's a ton of value. Hey, look, so and so remembered me. They asked how I am. They're checking in. They had this little detail of something I mentioned last time when I was there. They care. And that's super important.
There was a spa that we worked with a couple years ago, and she formed a partnership with a flower shop in her town. And they sent out bouquets of flowers on Mother's Day to all of their members. And it was a great strategic partnership between the flower shop and the spa. And some of the feedback that she got was some of her patients were saying, well, my esthetician didn't send me flowers. What spa are you going to? So, what are these little things that we can do to over deliver? The phone calls are a piece of that. I think it is that building that relationship, that the clients and patients that we have that know our birthdays, that know our kids' names, that know that bring us holiday gifts, they're not going to go buy products on Amazon because it's $5 cheaper. They're not going to go, they're going to have that. They're not going to be price shopping for other places. You're going to be their place. That comes from, I think, this human connection that you're talking about so much. And instead, so many of us get stuck in this like price competition and things like that, when really it's how can we make every single client feel like they are the VIP of the spa,
100%.
which is
How
a
can
lot harder than it. I mean, it's so easy to say that, but like to show up like that every day, to serve that person like that every day.
That's why I think it comes back to both as a leader and as somebody who's leading themselves within a larger structure. I think it's like, why am I here? What is my purpose? How, and irrespective of what that means for the big picture, like you still have a day ahead of you. You're going to talk to human beings. These human beings have needs. You have needs. It's a really beautiful moment. Speaking to the partnership and the synchronicity that you mentioned between the spa and the flower shop. How do you find that? And that exists both in like in need fulfillment, it exists in conversations, it exists in everything in between. So I'm always looking for like, okay, I mean, where my mind went when you just shared that is okay. First thing I'm doing, I'm going to either send a mystery shopper or go myself into another spa and just see what are the competitors doing in my space. After which point, I'm going to take a lot of mental notes. I'm going to see how I felt before I went in and afterwards. I'm also going to be put into their pipeline, or somebody on my team will, or somebody I know. So I can see what are their touch points, learn from what is already out there, and then improve on what exists. You don't have to invent the wheel. But I think if you bring some creativity and decide, like, I'm going to go that extra mile in a busy marketplace, like I don't know your area, but there are probably a ton of other spas in a busy marketplace. How are you going to stand out?
Mm-hmm.
We're all like, the paradox is, in life, we're usually trying to fit in, but in business, we're trying to stand out. So how can you find that right balance?
That is such a good quote. It is. In life, we're trying to fit in, and in business, we're trying to stand out. Yeah, I think ultimately it comes down to the way that you make your clients feel, and not in just like, did I solve their problem, but how did they feel coming to the spa? Did we greet them by name? Did we, like all of those are kind of very basic things. But again, it's like deepening the relationship to that level, that if we can strive every day for that VIP person, and to go above and beyond, and what can we be doing to get better and better and better, that ultimately will blow you past the competition, or quote unquote competition, that's out there.
The biggest business asset you have is not your location. It's not even your team. It is, how do you, using both of those, transfer care? Especially in this industry. If this were like a computer tech industry, something that's like very cognitive and mechanical, totally different. But this is like, by definition, this industry, it really leans on, how do I feel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, what feeling do you want people, and you can map this out, dear CEOs, you can map this out in advance. When somebody walks into my establishment, how are they feeling? And you can even do this. You can interview people when they walk in, when you're first getting started, or whatever, random experiment. Hey, you just walk through the door. If I could have a totally honest answer on a 1 to 10, 10 is I feel incredible. One is I feel different. Like, where do you feel right now? And then measure them on the way out. Hey, they're walking out of the room. Hey, just out of curiosity, on that same scale, how do you feel right now? I guarantee people are going to have at least an uptick of 2 points. Wow, you just improved 20% in 45 minutes, in 30 minutes, in an hour, whatever. Oh my God, yeah. But again, that's if you really want to add the metric to it, the comparison to it. But otherwise, how do you want people to feel when they leave the space? As a leader, when people leave my coaching calls, Zoom calls, etc., I want them to feel like they have had an extraordinary introduction into something unique.
Mm.
Sometimes I achieve that, sometimes I don't. But I do it a lot more often because I'm aiming for it.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff in this call that I think it's really great to highlight these points and then evaluate yourself objectively without judging. How can I be doing better? How can I incorporate even just one of these things? If I just start even with just setting my intentions for the day of how I'm going to show up, and then, maybe the next week I'm going to start adding in, this aspect, or then finally I'm going to start calling them. I'm going to shoot for how many no's I can get just to get the data to get comfortable with that. I'm going to find out how I can over deliver. The money comes when those things are happening.
The money is just a measurement. It like, if you can get to a place where obviously you're building a business and you're growing and so forth, you've got rent to pay, etc. But if you can play a game with yourself, which is, the money invariably will result in me doing all of these other things. You can control your inputs, and money is the output. Control your inputs. Give people a hell of a customer service experience. Help change their lives in whatever way makes sense within your spa specifically. And then, of course, that's different. And then money will appear. And of course, you need structures, and you need to take care of your team, and all the stuff that
we got to systemize it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All those things, because you got to get it out of your head so that you can track, especially, some of these practices that have, thousands of patients that they're seeing every single month. But it can be done.
100%.
Very good. Well, thank you, Eugene. This was amazing. I really feel like this is going to help so many of our listeners. I want to encourage you that are listening to watch the replay, take notes. And when you listen to a podcast, when you watch a webinar, when you read a book, you have to apply what you learned. If you don't actually apply, you're not getting any of the benefit. You're not getting an ROI on that time or money investment that you made. So it is the best thing that you can do for yourself is to listen, absorb, and then start taking action on those things so that you can actually see the result. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Eugene, and we will catch you on the next episode.